It's time for me to tackle the John Carpenter, Kurt Russell, knee-high boot, tank top triple feature. Big Trouble in Little China is a 1986 movie done by John Carpenter and starring Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell plays Jack Burton, a truck driver who makes his way into Chinatown, and his friend Wang have to save his mail-order girlfriend from the forces of Chinese black magic. This one is super fun and weird. So weird. I liked it a lot, but I don't know if I have that much to say about it. There's kind of not too much to this movie other than it's weird sometimes, and then kind of not a lot happens, which is going to be kind of a theme with these three movies. I'll start with the bad. The writing is terrible. There's an exposition dump for a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, but then they won't explain stuff that I'm like, that could use an explanation. I'm gonna go down to the shipping area. And she's like, what? The shipping area? The most dangerous place that's ever existed? A giant, like, Chewbacca beast that shows up, never mentioned. They don't explain what it is, why it's there, nothing. Anything mystical does not get explained at all, but they'll spend so much time just going,
the Wing Kong Exchange? The most dangerous cutthroat den of madmen in Chinatown. You can't just waltz in and out of there like
the wind.
It's bad. It's really bad. But on the flip side, there's a lot that I really do like about this movie. It is very silly. A lot of the like three brothers that have like lightning powers. The lightning looks really great, and a lot of cool colors, like a lot of greens and blues, and the practical makeup, the practical sets, they're all really cheesy but fun. I did really like the actor Dennis Dunn, who plays Wang Chi. You would think that he's his sidekick, but honestly, he does most of it. Kurt Russell essentially does nothing this entire movie, except just walk around and go, what the hell is going on?
So somebody, I don't care who, tell me what is going on.
Victor Wong is in this movie, barely. Man, the second I saw him, I'm like, it's Grandpa from the Three Ninjas.
Grandpa, how'd you do that?
Next time, try attacking in a non-smoking section.
Overall, the action's pretty fun. The special effects are pretty fun. It's cheesy, it's goofy, it's out there, but I enjoyed my time. I think I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. Truthfully, I got done watching Big Trouble in Little China, and as much as I enjoyed it, I don't know if I really had that much to say about it, so I decided kind of just do a double feature. Escape from New York is a 1981 John Carpenter movie. Kurt Russell stars as Snake Plissken, who is a total badass. I guess Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid was based on him.
My name is Plissken.
The name's Plissken.
Which is about, it's the most basic movie trivia. It's the same movie trivia as Viggo Mortensen broke his foot in Lord of the Rings.
Don't say it.
This is a world where all of Manhattan gets surrounded by a concrete wall, and every convict gets shipped into New York to just fend for themselves. The president's Air Force One gets taken over. He jumps out into an escape pod and he lands inside of New York City. They take Snake Plissken, who is a very well-known prisoner. They put capsules into his bloodstream where he'll die in 24 hours. And then they send him into New York to go retrieve the president and the briefcase that he has handcuffed to him. It's a super interesting concept, and the execution is pretty decent of like making a dystopian New York, which I guess there was a fire in St. Louis around the time of filming, and John Carpenter convinced them to let them use that section of street and just turn off the power, which is why it looks so desolate, but the sets are huge, as they just used a chunk of a city that basically burned down, which looks super, super cool. I wish that the movie was a little bit more action-packed. It kind of is just Kurt Russell roaming around empty streets for most of the movie, but it definitely is a super fun time, and it's interesting to see how weird the section of New York gets once it's just left to these savages. Kurt Russell doesn't really say a lot in the movie. He's a very stoic guy. I will say he will kiss any lady. Same thing in Big Trouble in Little China. He'll kiss just about any lady who's willing, which is a problem as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of really cool imagery in the movie, a lot of practical effects to simulate computer effects because they didn't have the technology back then. One of the bad guys, the Duke, has this car that has chandeliers as headlights, and he has a disco ball hanging from the rear view. And when I say a disco ball, I mean a disco ball the size of a soccer ball. It's crazy to look at, but I love it. Snake Plissken has a snake tattoo. At one point in the movie, he has to do a cage fight, and Kurt Russell has his shirt off, and he has a cobra tattooed from his stomach all the way down into his pants. Every time I see him without his shirt off, I just imagine the poor tattoo artist who had to... How far down does this go? Whole way? Okay, great. It's so dumb. For a rated R action movie, you think that it's gonna be relatively violent. It was pretty tame, I'll be honest. I was expecting some pretty outlandish stuff, but overall, it's tame. You can kind of see where there's not a whole big budget on this movie, but the world building and the concept and stuff is great. It just seemed like they had no money to make it, which is fair, and it can be a little slow at times, but I mean, when the action's going, and it is a really good time. I think I'm also going to give this one a 7 out of 10. After I watched Big Trouble in Little China, I watched Escape from New York, and I went, you know what? I haven't seen Escape from LA either, so I went ahead and I watched that one as well. Escape from LA from 1996. Also John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. An earthquake has hit LA and detached it from the rest of the US, and they've turned that into a prison. They Australia'd LA. The president's daughter steals a briefcase, escapes into LA. Snake Plissken is brought back to essentially rescue the daughter and whatever is in the case. Once again, they pump him full of poison, and he's got 8 hours to do it. This movie is bat insane. It's so different. Big Trouble in Little China is goofy and it's out there. I don't know what the we're doing with this movie. It's got a little bit faster pace than the rest of them. You can tell that it's got a little bit more snappy editing, which just tends to happen the more into the 2000s era you get. A lot of 70s and 80s movies are relatively slow. This one's moving at a breakneck speed. Nothing is off the table with this movie. It has so many ideas that you're like, hey, rope it in. Escape from New York has a soundtrack by John Carpenter, eerie synths and stuff like that, and it's very chill, but it keeps this one is a full butt rock soundtrack. In my roots, I am not opposed to that. It is a huge departure from the other one. Whenever you have action scenes with the practical effects and explosions and everything like that, it rules. But man, they rely so heavy on CGI, and they were not there. They were not ready at all. All of the CGI looks like fucking Spy Kids. It is rough shit. It even includes Steve Buscemi in the worst CGI in the movie. There's a submarine scene at the beginning, horrible. There's a glider later on that stuff just looks really bad, and the helicopter blades, everything like that, it does not look great. But by far, the surfing scene is the dumbest, worst CGI shit. There's no reason in hell that this should even be in the movie. I have to assume they put a lot of locations, like they make it a point to be like, this is Mulholland Drive and this is Sunset. I'm sure it's a real love letter to LA. Even if it is a love letter to LA, you have to put surfing in there. Like, yeah, dude, watch, he's gonna surf for no fucking reason. You're like, have you ever surfed before? And then he just rips. He just crushes it. There's a weird scene where Kurt Russell is put into a basketball court and he has to make 5 baskets, and he makes a basket per 10 seconds. I don't know why this is in here. This one was written by John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, and I think it shows because it's a lot of Kurt Russell doing stuff where you go, who is this for? I'm sure it's a little bit of Kurt Russell. Like, I've been playing pickup basketball recently. I think we should probably have a basketball scene. It pretty much parallels the first movie in almost every way. Any Kurt Russell injury that happened in the first one, he gets in this one. Any twists, any turns, they're the same twists and turns. They have a lot of ideas that I go, who is this for and why is this in here? Like, I can't tell if it's the best or the worst, but it's bad in a really good way. I don't know. There's a little bit of a nostalgia of that kind of early 2000s where they had faith that CGI was going to look good, and it doesn't at all. The one-liners are ridiculous. The action kind of never stops. There's a lot of good things going for this movie, and I have to say, Even though it might be theoretically the worst one out of the three of them, I think I enjoyed my time the most with it. I'm gonna give Escape from LA an 8 out of 10. Which I know. I had a really good time with this one. I'm a big fan of The Thing, and so I kind of wanted to tackle more of the Kurt Russell, John Carpenter stuff, and this has been a very interesting experience, but I mean, I did like them quite a bit, even though I think overall standards they are bad, but they have a real charm to them, which I enjoy. Thank you for watching. This one was a lot, but I had fun. So thank you, appreciate it. I guess I'll see you next time.